Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting some moderate turbulence.
Please remain seated and enjoy the show. Hello.
And welcome to
Moderate Turbulence.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Adele.
Hi, Adele.
Hi, Jeremy.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Well, we're back. So let's get right into it. Why has it taken us so long to get back into this?
Well, I mean, we were in Vancouver for 13 months, living, working, teaching, enjoying life. And we were podcasting there and we started YouTube. So once we got back to Calgary, we needed to keep YouTube up. We couldn't just go back to only audio podcasts because we set a precedent. And then, well, this room where we're podcasting now is Jeremy's office in the house, but it didn't look like this. So we needed to get it set up so it looked proper for YouTube.
Yeah, part of it. So when we were in Vancouver for so long, we accumulated a lot of stuff, as you do. And so when we did come back from Calgary, first of all, we had to pack a full car full of stuff. And then we came back to Calgary and we kind of plopped everything down in this room. And so it was it was a big mess for a long time. And so it took a while to finally clear everything out, get everything set up, and wanted to make it look nice and get a little setup here for the podcast so that it would look nice on YouTube. And I think we've accomplished that now.
Yeah, no, Jeremy did a good job. I mean, we found a couple of bookcases on Marketplace.
That was on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah.
So, and that was an adventure because it just happened to be one of the coldest nights of the past month. And they didn't fully fit in the car. So we drove about half an hour back home with the trunk halfway open.
Yeah, we had to use a couple of bungee cables to keep the trunk closed. But yeah, and it was good. Oh, and you had to work early the next morning, but you came with me anyway. So,
well, because you also had just injured your back. Yeah. So I wasn't going to let you go grab these two giant bookcases all by yourself and load them into your car. Although you pretty much had the help of the homeowner, but you never assume that they're able to assist or anything. Because when you go pick up stuff, it's your own responsibility to get it home. But so that was one thing. And then of course we had to figure out, well, what are we going to display? How are we going to sit? We were looking to maybe get more bigger, comfortable chairs. These are just our kitchen chairs from upstairs. This table you got at IKEA. Yep. It actually is adjustable and is a good podcasting table. Yeah. Height, length. You did good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And actually, just to be honest, like 5 minutes ago, we were trying to adjust everything and we sat here and we're like, nope, table's too short, quick readjustment. And so yeah, I'm glad I got the adjustable table from IKEA. Well, the adjustable legs for the table. Other fun things. Roxy's still with us. Roxy, do you want to say hi? She'll probably say hi at the end. She's, oh my goodness, we've had her for a couple years now. And she's
almost 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years this June. Wow.
Yeah.
And obviously we love her and she's still a big part of our family, a big part of the podcast. And so hopefully she'll say her goodbye at the end of the episode. And we're happy that you get to see her still on here. And then, we sort of have our designated studio space here now. We've got our logo in the back. We've got some decorations on the shelves. We're going to be showing off some of one of Adele's new hobbies is collecting Starbucks mugs.
Hobbies. I mean, it's just like a souvenir thing that's fun. And I just love also the size of the mugs.
Yeah, so they're good size.
They're good size, good for coffee, teas, whatever Jeremy's drinking
I'm drinking
right now.
a bubbly, a raspberry bubbly, which is our new favorite flavor. And I'm drinking out of the London mug. We'll get into it in a few minutes, but London, England is the destination I've been frequenting the most. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. Because you're there like 4 or 5 times a month.
Yeah.
Also, you can't see mine, but we're wearing these Canadian airport code shirts provided by Ted and my mom for Christmas.
For Christmas, yeah.
So why not wear them on the podcast that we're talking about aviation? So I don't know if we're going to wear them every time we podcast, but they're going to make their appearances here and there. So shout out to my mom and Ted for these.
Thank you.
Wonderful shirts. So if you're just listening, Mom and Ted, go on YouTube, you'll see them. Or also if you're just listening and you don't want to see the shirts, anyone can just go on YouTube as well. So like mentioned, that's why we just took so long, because we wanted to get it back up and fully set up for YouTube and audio. So now that we are visually set up, I mean, you're going to see little tweaks here and there for sure, as we adjust and how we do it and how we edit and how it looks on camera, because you can only see and analyze so much in a little screen on a camera. So it'll be kind of trial and error for, I guess, the first few ones coming back. But sure. You've been with us for a while. So
and if you want to help us out, especially with YouTube, since that's still sort of in its infancy for us, if you could like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon on there as well, that would help us out a ton. That's sort of how the YouTube algorithm works. The more people that watch and like it, and the earlier in the video that you hit like, really helps us out. So getting into sort of our little agenda for today, we were going to talk a bit about what we've been doing since training ended. And again, a big part of that is getting settled back here in Calgary. We had a little bit of time off because we accumulated some vacation days during training. So we had some time to sort of readjust, get settled back in here in Calgary, readjust to all the snow, the cold weather, and get ourselves ready to go back flying, which again was a huge adjustment for us.
Yeah, so my first flight was December 27th. Yours was the 31st?
December 31st, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we had most of December off, but yeah, I mean, obviously it was holidays coming up. It took a solid probably 2 weeks to just get a lot of stuff unpacked.
Yeah.
Getting settled back in, cleaning the house, readjusting to being home. Like this is our home, but we weren't here. So yeah, going back flying was a little nerve-wracking. Because for me, I flew for a month and a half post-COVID, then went into the training for a year and a bit. And then, so I really hadn't flown for almost 2 years.
Almost 3.
Yeah.
Well, 2 and a bit. Yeah.
2 and a bit. So it was really, and everything just kept changing, obviously, in the past 3 years with what we serve on board and the SOPs, standard operating procedures, just regulations. Everything was just constantly in motion. So it was a lot to adjust to. But after I did my first flight, I just felt like, all right, we're back into it. It's normal.
Yeah, it was the same thing for me. My first flight back was the 31st of December. And that was going back. I'd only flown 2 pairings since we were recalled after COVID, because I went right back into training. So again, like you, it was really nerve wracking, and I was kind of nervous and printing all the paperwork and trying to get prepared mentally and actual physical things prepared for the flight. But then, like you said, after the first flight, we always say it's like riding a bicycle. You get right back into the swing of things. And I loved it. And I was fortunate enough on that first flight, I got to fly with one of my participants, one of your participants, one of the participants from the latest class that was just down the hall, and one of the participants who had to come back for 3 weeks of training. So not one of our initial participants, but had to do 3 weeks of training. So we knew him as well. And my first flight was going to Frankfurt, and I'll tell you more about it in a second, because we'll get to Adele's flying first.
Well, I mean, same for me. I've been flying with a few of the participants from the last year, just different phases, different classes, whether I knew them well or just really by passing or just a name. I feel what Jeremie has been feeling probably for the past decade or more, just people recognizing me. I've even had pilots recognize me just because I taught some of the annual recurrent training with the pilots when we were in Vancouver. So that was interesting. Just being recognized. I was like, oh, you know me, but I don't know you.
Celebrity status,
Yeah. So that I finally, get my own little taste of that. So that was interesting, but it's a lot of fun. And you do have a little bit of pressure on you because you were in the training and you're supposed to know everything, right? That's what people think. Or you're going to be a stickler for all the rules and not be fun at all, or just be kind of overly bossy or strict, but then they fly with you for an hour and then they're, oh, okay, you're fine. You're
cool.
You're okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been lots of fun. Of course, I mean, we're still in the winter in Calgary. We're recording today. It's March 14th. Yeah, March 14th.
It's Pi Day.
Yeah, and it's still super full force winter in Calgary. So winter operations are still in force. We're still de-icing. There's still snow coming down almost daily, at least in part of the country. So that's, another adjustment of going back flying is delays, not diversions, but change of schedules, diversions in the schedule. I mean, just overall winter chaos, if you will, because
countrywide too.
Yeah.
Not just Calgary.
Oh no, not just Calgary, just flying in general. I mean, especially if you hit Toronto, that's just notoriously an issue, and there's always something. And I mean, the industry overall is still recovering. We're still not pre-COVID staffing and everything. So it's obviously better than it was, like right after people started traveling again. But it's still, you see little hiccups here and there, and you kind of just have to grin and bear it and go with the flow, because aviation is just, that's what it is. It's never a dull moment, but sometimes
lots of ups and downs.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little frustrating, that's for sure.
So since you've been back flying, where have you been flying to the most?
Well, not really anywhere in particular, just in Canada.
Well, you've done a lot of Montreals.
Well, I mean, that's not really that exciting.
Well,
sorry, Mom.
It's still good. And recently, or no, not recently, but you did, you got to go to Cancun at one point as well, right?
Oh, it's true. I got one Cancun layover.
Which is always nice.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, seniority wise, because everything works seniority based with us. So I'm starting to see a little bit of change in schedules, but with the flying, it's not back to pre-COVID. So a little bit frustrating sometimes when the schedules come out and I don't get what I thought I could maybe have on my schedule, layover wise or flight wise. But I mean, yes, I've been to Montreal a lot. And when I go to Montreal, most of the time I've been able to see my mom and hang out, either go home or she comes to see me and we have a meal or hang out with family. So that's definitely a bonus, and it doesn't feel like a layover, but I'm essentially getting paid to go and spend time with my family. So that's always a nice thing. But again, going overseas or going even to the States or Hawaii, that's always like a fun treat that I haven't really been able to enjoy just yet.
Yeah. And for me, again, with my seniority, I have been fortunate enough to hold mostly Londons with the occasional Frankfurts. I did another pairing in there at one point where I went to Winnipeg once and I went to Las Vegas once, and where I had to get you a Las Vegas mug. And I did. I was successful. But London has been... London, I'm not sure if you can see on the mug there, and London, we get the double-decker bus. But London's been sort of my key route. I've had the same passengers on board several times. I had a passenger for the third time recently, and it's like, oh, Mr. So-and-so, good to see you again. He's like, oh, Jeremy, how are you? And so on my last flight, actually, there was a couple and then another gentleman, and the three of them were on my flight a week previous going to London. So it's kind of funny seeing that start happening. But yeah, London's been my go-to recently, which is of the overseas, it's usually the most junior for any base, just because it's the most frequent. But I've really loved it. I've really quite enjoyed going to London. Any fun things happen on your flights recently? Fun. I'm using air quotes for that.
Well, here, let's get into a couple stories. So, not uncommon, but sometimes when passengers travel for long distances, long periods of times, they've been just up for very long time during the day, even if they're just traveling within the country. They can get tired, they can get low blood sugar or whatever's happening. Even if they have pre-existing health issues, it could definitely get triggered when they're a bit stressed, they have long days and stuff. So earlier last week, I had a 3-day pairing, and I had the same crew the whole time, and that was a great crew. 2 of my previous participants and someone I went to high school with.
Yeah, odd enough, yeah.
Yeah, so the 4 of us flew together for 3 days. Every single flight that we did was together, and we had a lot of fun. But then on our last flight home, we had a medical situation. The person involved ended up being okay, but it was definitely, we needed to act. We needed to be on top of it. Thankfully, we also had a medical assistance on board. So a passenger that was a nurse, she was able to help and assist, and everyone was on top of it. My crew was great. They got the equipment. They communicated with me. The passengers were reassured. The pilots were informed about everything. So it was everything just worked smoothly in a stressful situation. So I was really proud of my participants just because I'm the one who taught them. And it's like, I feel a little bit of pride in that because, they're actually doing really, really well. And then I was proud of myself because that was my first time dealing with a medical situation as an in charge. I've dealt with a few as a flight attendant, but not as the in charge in the situation. So it was an intense situation, but was handled greatly. And yeah, that was and a good outcome because the person ended up being okay.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. I also had a medical situation on one of my Londons somewhat recently where, again, a passenger lost consciousness at the feet of an ER surgeon.
What are the chances?
And I wish I was exaggerating a bit, but it was literally like in row 12 and the surgeon was 12 alpha. So the window seat. So, they jumped into it and we had great medical help on board. The rest of the crew, one of the crew members was used to be a registered nurse. So it was very comfortable dealing with first aid situations. And I was kind of like ready to go and, everybody's doing things already. Perfect. I'm going to sit back, let them do their thing, say what I need to say, take the notes, and start doing all the paperwork. Of course, that was about an hour before landing after a 9-hour flight. So, now it's crunch time when we have to get everything done before landing, and all of this is happening as well. But of course, same thing, good outcome. Everybody was ready to go and ready to help, and good outcome for that one. Now, my other incident that I was going to talk about, first time in my entire career, before takeoff, we had to actually go back to the gate and have a passenger removed from the flight. The passenger who was displaying disruptive, unruly behavior, and we didn't want it to escalate even further in the air. So we made sort of a collective decision amongst all of the crew members, including the pilots, to go back to the gate and have that passenger removed. And it's one of those things where I'm not proud of it, but at the same time, I'm glad we did it because you never want to see somebody not get to their destination. But if they're going to make it not just unpleasant, but potentially unsafe for the rest of the passengers and crew members, then we definitely want to deal with it on the ground before takeoff. Yeah, it's a hard situation. And like I told the story like to close friends and things like that, but I'm not proud of it. I don't know how to explain that, but at the same time, like I'm glad we did it. It's a hard one to touch, right?
Well, yeah, I understand because it's like you said, it's disciplinary and that person will have consequences because they acted in a not good way. We can't go into details because, of course, that involved our airline and some flight attendants and things.
Yeah.
But everyone's okay. No one got seriously injured or anything. But the situation could have potentially ended up with someone being injured because it was getting to that point. So, and like Jeremy said, if it's handled on the ground, if you can do something before the plane takes off, then you still have so much more power because if the plane was actually airborne, it's a lot more difficult to divert or go back to the airport. So if you can just return to the gate, it's a lot more simple. And then, you on a 10-hour flight, you don't want aggression, violence, injuries caused by one passenger that you saw behaviors already on the ground.
No, absolutely. So just thought I would mention that, just that I had to deal with that situation. But, 22 years, it's happened once. Well, I guess 15 since I've been a service director in charge. But yeah, I hope I never have to again. I sincerely hope that.
Yeah. But I mean, it happens. And then, you have the experience in a way now to handle the situation and the confidence to know how to make the right decision.
Yeah. I was really happy with everybody who kind of, when we decided to make that decision, everybody was very supportive. Crew members, pilots, management, when we returned back to the gate, our own base managers in Calgary were calling me on the phone right away, making sure everybody's okay. So, I was really happy with the support I felt. So that was good.
That's really good. That's what you want to hear in that situation.
Yeah.
You don't want to be left alone.
Definitely.
Because, in that sense, when we had our medical with that great crew, the pilot, the captain wanted to make sure that everyone was okay. He stayed after everyone deplaned, had a little debrief with everyone.
Oh, that's great.
Asked if anyone had any questions, wanted to see how everyone felt about how the situation was handled overall, and just wanted to make sure everyone was okay. Mm-hmm. And he commended the whole crew for how the situation was handled. And it was just a really good way to end a stressful situation.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. So what's next on our agenda for today?
Well, before we talk about upcoming episodes and just kind of what's coming up with Moderate Turbulence, because now that we're back. We're not going to have another 4-month hiatus. But I have a little story that I've seen on some of, I'm on TikTok a lot, and I watch another podcast on YouTube called Two Hot Takes.
Yeah, which I watch with you sometimes. And it's really good. Again, it's a podcast that they do it on YouTube as well. And we're big fans. So I don't know if we'll tag them or whatnot, but we're big fans of yours.
Yeah, well, they read a lot of Reddit stories and a lot of from the subreddit Am I the Asshole? Whatever, you can edit that out if you don't want to put it. So AITA. So there was one story that kept popping up about a pilot, or maybe. So I'm going to read out the post, and we'll talk about that, but we'll just talk about it in the aviation aspect, not the whole relationship between the. Anyways, I'll read it and then we'll talk about it.
And also, I know nothing about this story. Adele was like, I'll share this with you sort of on air, and then I'll react appropriately, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay, so the title is, Am I the Asshole for Asking My Wife to Respect My Title as Pilot? I need the opinions of av geeks and pilots on a matter involving my wife. All caps, I am completely serious and I need help. My wife and I, together for 5 years, married for 2, no kids, have an amazing, happy relationship. I can't recall a single time we've ever argued to the point of a breakup or divorce. This issue, however, is causing me to reconsider the health of our relationship. Since my wife and I have been together, I have worked as a manager for a restaurant chain. I am an extremely passionate aviation enthusiast in my free time. I have spent thousands of dollars on flight textbooks, sim gear, and even built my own A330 setup. I have never actually flown a plane or started flight training, but I have considered it for a long time. Even though my skills are not a career, I still consider myself as adept or possibly more knowledgeable than the average pilot. That being said, here's where the problem arises. My wife and I were invited to one of her male coworkers' house for a barbecue. My wife is a senior software tech for a COVID startup. She's worked there since 2020, a lucky catch after she was laid off from her previous job due to the virus. It was my first time meeting many of her now close coworkers due to COVID and working from home. I had assumed she'd talked about me before, but as we were cycling through introductions, I became less sure. We make our way down the line to the host of our party, a new male hire that she was grown platonically close with. We exchanged casual conversation, and Greg, the host, asked what I do for a living. My wife chimes in with, he manages a insert food chain here. It certainly comes with some benefits. I'm assuming she's referring to the free food. In a voice that implied nothing was wrong with what she said, I very quickly corrected her and told him that I am a pilot. My wife already knows how insecure I am about my job and how much I'd rather be introduced by my hobby. I've earned the title of pilot through my 500 plus hours on and sim and thousands of dollars put into my craft. I think it is incredibly disrespectful for her not to acknowledge my skills and training. Just because I don't have the title of pilot or an overpriced piece of paper doesn't mean I'm not a pilot. I laughed it off with Greg, told him under my breath that my wife was often forgetful, which I'm sure he's realized just from working with her. He seemed to brush it off casually. At this point, I'm fuming, but I don't go much further than exchanging some nasty glances at my wife for the rest of the night. As we pack into the car to leave, the argument starts. She feels as if I don't deserve my title as a pilot because I'm not a professional. I told her she's completely insensitive to the work I've done and she will never understand what it's like to study so much. She's currently on the couch as I type this. Am I really the asshole for asking to be respected? So that's the story.
Am I allowed to chime in yet?
Yes.
Yes, you are the asshole. You are not a pilot because you play video games and you set up an elaborate video game system. You know, even having a whole, Airbus 330 setup does not qualify you to say you're a pilot. You know what? If you are an avid person who likes to serve food in a restaurant, can you now claim that you're a flight attendant? No, because that's not what flight attendants do. We went through a full initial training. It's not, and I'm not comparing it to pilot training by any means, but I'm just saying you can't say you're a flight attendant because you enjoy serving food. You have to qualify. You have to get that expensive piece of paper. You have to pass all of the tests and exams to say, I am now a certified so-and-so flight attendant pilot. In this case, you're a gamer. I know people who are very, 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 very enthusiastic about their simulator setups with how they've created, desktop things and maybe not as elaborate. Maybe they haven't spent as much money, but they do not consider themselves pilots, even though they understand how to take a plane from point A to point B in a video game. So no, you cannot be introduced as a pilot. Oh my goodness.
Isn't that a good story?
I thank you for sharing that. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
And for me, it's I consider myself even more knowledgeable than the average pilot. I feel like Sully should chime in.
Okay, this is for real. On my last flight into London, going into London, there was winds were gusting up to 40 knots. And that's pretty significant when you're landing a wide body aircraft. And so when we were coming in for a landing, if the runway was here, our plane was sideways coming in until the very last second, and then they straighten out to land on the runway. That's a skilled pilot that is able to do that and have it seamless, even though we can feel the aircraft rocking back and forth. And because the wind's hitting at a certain angle, you can't go in straight or you'll miss the runway. So you have to come in on almost a 45-degree angle and straighten out right before you touch. You can go on YouTube and see a million of those videos. But I actually experienced that the other day. And it was kind of one of those afterwards when the pilots came out of the flight deck. I said, oh, whose landing was that? And nobody really chimed in. I said, that was a good one because we could feel what was going on in the back. And we're talking about a 300-seater wide body aircraft. Like that's skill. That's a pilot who has thousands upon thousands of hours flying an airplane, not a video game. And so in that story, I'm sorry, you can't call yourself a pilot. You can call yourself a gamer who loves flight simulators and things like that, but you are not qualified to call yourself a pilot, and you are not more knowledgeable than an actual pilot.
So that was I'm glad it got you really like a big reaction. I'm glad I saved that that reaction for this podcast. So that was a good one. Cause
have they done that one on Two Hot Takes?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched that episode yet though, but I'm curious to see how they reacted to it.
Well, because I saw it first on TikTok. Because a lot of people are starting to react to Reddit stories because some of them are really outrageous, evidenced here. And then they brought it up on Two Hot Takes. And I mean, a lot of it obviously is the relationship between that man and woman, you know, the little digs here and there about, oh, it's a lucky catch that she has her job and blah, blah, blah. And now as I'm writing this, she's sitting on the couch as if she's not allowed to sit on a couch and relax in her own home. Anyways, so the relationship aspect that was touched on a lot more in other podcast reactions. But we wanted to really talk about the aviation aspect and this person claiming they're a pilot when they've never flown an actual plane, nor have actually started flight school. But they, you know, are very enthusiastic about aviation and pilot training and all that. And they have textbooks, but until you actually fly
so then go and do it. If you're that enthusiastic about it, go and do it. Become a pilot. Learn how to fly an actual airplane. If you have so much knowledge, it should be easy for you, right? Then when you get all of your certifications, you can call yourself a pilot. It reminds it, part of that story reminded me a little bit of the movie Snakes on a Plane. Yes, I'm going there. Near the end of the movie, there was both the pilots had been bitten by snakes and were incapacitated or passed away at that point. And so they're like, we need someone to fly this plane. And then one of the passengers was a big time gaming enthusiast and he was always playing on his like PSP. And they're like, oh, this is your chance. You can fly the plane. They're like, you know how to fly a plane? He's like, well, I've got like 2,000 hours. They're like, perfect. He's like, in video games.
I forgot that part.
Yeah. But he ends up landing the plane or whatnot. So it was a 747 too. Easy peasy.
So yeah, totally unrealistic. If this person is ever on my flight, I'm not going to refer to him to land the plane in case of an emergency. So yeah, also a little leeway into future episodes because we're going to sometimes when we find stories on Reddit relating to aviation, passenger stories, whatever, we'll present them and we'll react to them. Maybe I'll do it, you'll do it, and then we'll make each other react like this. Because that was like a good raw reaction.
That was a good one.
So that was good. And then in case you've been following or aware, there's a new documentary out on Netflix about the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 that disappeared, when?
2013.
2013. Yeah, we've done an episode about that incident before, but we haven't watched the documentary yet because it just came out. So one of our next episodes here will be about that documentary.
Yeah, reacting to it, sort of how we did with the case against Boeing, downfall case against Boeing, and things like that. Yeah. Another episode, actually, one of our good friends, Alberto, he's been bugging me. He wants to come back on the podcast and he wants to come on with Trevor. They want to do like with all four of us. So I think I might have to adjust the setup a little bit here, but I think we can make that happen as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so Alberto, who's, a wonderful plane spotter, go check out his accounts on Instagram. He's moved to Calgary now. He was in Vancouver before, but he's been plane spotting nonstop here in Calgary. And we actually have a flight together next week. And he's asked me already, I know we stay downtown London, like near St. John's Wood. He's like, let's go back to the airport and do some plane spotting. So I might go with him because the aircraft that you'll see in London is a lot different than the aircraft you see in Calgary. So we'll get a lot of 380s, 747s. There's still a few there. Lots of Airbus 350s, things like that. So it'll be kind of neat.
Oh, that will be fun. Plus, obviously, he's a good friend. So you'll have just like a fun time with that crew, with that flight.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So if you're listening, Alberto, we'll have fun in London and we'll get you back on the podcast soon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're back. We're home. We have our people here. So this is just the beginning, the new beginning of episodes coming out.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed this longer episode. We were talking about maybe doing it a really long recording and then splitting it into two. Yeah. But I think this will just be one episode.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. We'll see how editing goes.
Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. If you have any suggestions for any episodes that you want to hear, or anything you want us to react to, or anything you want us to comment on, you can always send us emails to moderateturbulencepodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, I think that's about it.
If you're out flying,
always be nice to your flight attendants,
because they might have to save your butt one day.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Roxy. One more. Give us one more. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We have new episodes every Wednesday. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Moderate Turbulence on Instagram, at Mod Turbulence on Twitter, and follow us individually on Instagram at HuffyJ and at La Delvie. Thank you.